a Living History production.
This is the Living History podcast, broadcasting live across the airwaves.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Living History. I'm very excited. I'm joined by someone pretty special to talk about a pretty special trip. We're going to be talking about Gallipoli. We're going to be talking about Gallipoli with the one and only Peter Hart, who joins me now from London. Pete, welcome to this special episode of the program.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm so much looking forward to this trip that we've got planned in May next year. It's getting closer.
I wanted to get you on the show, mate, to talk specifically about this trip because it's such a rare opportunity. I mean, I think you share the same idea as me that even though we occasionally get paid for what we do, it can hardly be called work. And this Gallipoli trip we've got coming up, I think, sums that up better than anything else. Just to explain to everyone what we're talking about, in May 2025, Pete and I are escorting the McLachlan signature tour. It's the only tour that I lead every year, and really it's the Matt and Pete signature tour this year. And we're going to go to Gallipoli because we've done a lot of work on Gallipoli lately. We've done a special podcast series. Pete's done some incredible books over the years about it. I've just done my new book on Gallipoli. So there's a lot of reasons to get over to Gallipoli, but the main one is it's just such a bloody awesome place to visit. Pete, are you looking forward to this experience?
Well, you don't really need an excuse to go to Gallipoli, do you? I remember the first time I went, I was so excited. That was back in 2000, 2001. And then when you get there, it's better. It's better than anything you've ever dreamed of. It's the history, it's the scenery, it's the people, but most of all, it's remembering what happened there and trying to understand what went on. And you can't unless you've been there. You just can't.
Well, Gallipoli, in terms of battlefields, is pretty much like the Australians in the First World War. It's not necessarily the best, but it certainly is among the best battlefields that you can visit. It's just such a great place. And when I decided that I was going to go to Gallipoli on this tour instead of the Western Front where I normally go, there was only one person I wanted to come with me because we've been there together, Pete. We've walked the ground. We've never led a tour, but we have spent quite a bit of time walking the ground, discovering Gallipoli. And I think it's just such a magical place, mate, because you learn so much about the campaign from walking the ground. I think that is unique about Gallipoli. There's no other battlefield I've been to where it all just sort of makes sense all of a sudden because it's so constricted. The distances are so small. The high ground is so important. All those elements that we read about in all the history books, you then get to see it firsthand on the ground. And it's like no other place I've been to for that level of understanding.
It's just all there in front of you, and you can suddenly see why they failed. You can see why something worked, why something didn't work. You can understand it, and it's just so atmospheric. Obviously, you're not going through what the soldiers went through at all, but you're in the very spot, and there's still trenches, there's still bits of equipment, there's still, I'm afraid, occasionally bones. It's just amazing. It's the most wonderful battlefield tour that I can imagine. I know you've sent people to lots of great tours, but as you say, it's the first amongst equals then, of the very best.
It's going to be a great experience, and we still do have a few places left if you'd like to join us. So, and not just for our friends from Australia as well. If you're listening to this anywhere in the world, international listeners as well, you can join us too. It all works wherever you are in the world. So please do join us. But what I wanted to do today was just talk a little bit about what we're going to do on the tour and some of the things we're going to experience. And you were talking about trenches, Pete, and I think part of this experience is going to be getting out and walking the ground because we love to do that when we visit a battlefield. But last time we did that in 2019 in Gallipoli, they just cleared Silt Spur, this huge area next to Lone Pine, and we made a video about that, which is up on YouTube. But that was just extraordinary. The Turkish authorities are in the middle of this fantastic plan, this program, to reveal sections of the battlefield by cutting the scrub away. And then for a year or two, it's exposed and the scrub closes back over it. I think you said that Pope's Hill is now uncovered, Pete, in the same way?
Pope's Hill is amazing to go. I'd never been on there, Matt, because it was just too difficult. The scrub was just too thick to get there. It would have taken half a day to get there. Now you can just walk across there from the chessboard and Quinn's Post. It's a matter of just walking, and yet you're still there, and you can see bits of the trenches, and it's such a unique location, Popes. I can't wait to go there again. It's the pivot of the line, if you like. It's so crucial, and you can see what they could see at the time, which is just in front of you, the chessboard, and on your right you've got Quinn's, and then the Monash Valley. It's all, and you can understand what's going on. You can picture Monash down in his dugout. We've had podcasts about down in his dugout at the bottom. You can picture the lads in the terraces after Malone had done the terraces. You can talk about men like Malone. You can talk about those men. Are they heroes, or do you just respect them enormously? For me, they're heroes, and it's just amazing. And Pope's, I know, is still clear. Siltspur, I don't know at the moment, because every year you wonder whether it'll have been covered over again. But it's great to see
really
it.
Wants to. Oh, it was great, and nature really wants to reclaim that land, doesn't it? It's, I mean, Siltspur was amazing. We had a trench map that I think the 11th Battalion had drawn of these positions, and because it hasn't been touched in a century, everything was still there, exactly the same. Every trench and little dugout. I mean, obviously much reduced now. They're a lot shallower than they were in 1915, but they're all still there. You could come around a corner and there would be a machine gun post or a listening post. It was extraordinary. It was just really one of the best experiences I've ever had on a battlefield.
I like that forward listening post where you could just imagine some poor Aussie sat there on his own in this tiny little hole in the middle of no man's land, looking across.
Facing the entire Turkish army, yeah.
Just how you'd feel. You can imagine hearing things in your head, whether they're real or not, and imagine them creeping up on you. Oh, boy, what a place. What a place.
Well, mate, how important is it walking the ground? I mean, you're in your mid-50s now, so not as agile as you used to be.
Late 60s.
But we, every time we go there and to any battlefield, getting out walking the ground is one of the, the great thrills of being there. Tell me about that at Gallipoli.
Well, it's an amazing experience walking the ground, because you are following in the footsteps. And there are things we do when we're on a walking tour that you just can't do when you're on a just basic tour. You're going to get to places that we've seen them, but people don't see with tours. You can get to W Beach. You can climb in the British sector. You can climb up to an old dugout. You can see all the intricacies of the Anzac position. You actually see on the ground there. You can marvel at how they ever held it. That's the amazing thing about Anzac. It's just, and when you can see and you can look and see what they could see, that's it. Getting up those hills, you realise what it was like as you struggle up a hill. It's not all hills, but you can feel it, and you can sense a little bit of what it was like for them, except no one's shooting at you, and hopefully you haven't got dysentery.
Hey, we make no guarantees, but that's an optional extra. Seriously though, this isn't the way. You said this. This isn't the way that most people do a tour of Gallipoli, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the way most people tour Gallipoli, which is getting on a coach and going to each site and having a look and getting back on the coach and going to the next site. It's really well set up to do that. That's a great way to do it, but you don't have to go far off the beaten track to find some really remarkable corners of the battlefield, do you?
Well, one of the best examples is Braun's Ridge, which lies in leading up from Shrapnel Valley and Monash up to Second Ridge, and that is so near where everybody goes, but very few people walk up it, and yet it's a bit steep in places. But what a walk! That's where you get the perspective across the whole of Monash Valley. That's where you can look down and see where Simpson was killed. You can look down and see where Bridges was fatally wounded. You can actually see the point. You can look down and see it. Wow. And does anybody else go there? No, not many organised tours, just the walking tours, and only the special walking tours with us on it.
Exactly. So walking is going to be a key component of this tour, simply because we love getting out and doing it. And I don't want to scare anyone off, but you do need to be able to walk on some broken ground and up and down some hills and things like that. It's not terribly challenging, but you do need to be able to get around a bit to be able to do it. But that's the beauty of visiting Gallipoli and living this history firsthand. And I thought, Pete, well, we'll even go through day by day the itinerary just to describe what we're going to do.
Yeah,
because
all right.
it's going to be so exciting. And when I go through this is the itinerary. This does describe what we're going to do. But even you and I don't know exactly at this point what we're going to do, Pete, because we are going to refine it as we go along. And even on the day, I'm sure we'll be making adjustments because there'll be some opportunity. And Gallipoli's like that. You chat to a local and they say, "Oh, did you know that a new dugout has just been exposed down that lane, or there's another trench in that copse over there." So you add that to your list. So it will very much be like that we'll be making it up as we go along. But it's going to be good fun. It's going to be good fun.
Making it up as we go along. That doesn't sound like us.
Well, there'll be flexibility built into the itinerary so that we get the most out of it.
Flexibility.
That's for sure. That's the professional way of saying it. But we're going to start in Istanbul. The tour is not going to include Istanbul sightseeing because we want to get on with the battlefield stuff. So if you're going to join us on the tour and you haven't been to Istanbul, definitely spend a few days there before the tour so you can get a taste of all those fantastic sites because it's
a wonderful
an amazing
city.
What do you think, Pete? Some people have a love-hate relationship with Istanbul. Which camp are you in?
I love it. It's a great place to spend a couple of days. If you can get there earlier, I would. Great sights, great things to see. Hagia Sophia, these places, the Blue Mosque, the palace, just the walls. It's a great city. On the other hand, it's quite crowded and it's a busy city. But then so's London. It's
indeed. I've been to both. They're both great. We're going to gather in Istanbul. So that's the thing. If you're coming on the tour, spend a few days in Istanbul beforehand because we are not going to do much or any sightseeing while we're there. We're simply going to come together for a welcome dinner in Istanbul, and then the next day, that kicks off what we're going to be doing a lot of, which is eating some fine food because I absolutely love the Turkish cuisine. So that's going to be a key part of everything we're doing. Enjoying a cold beer as well. But then let's get on to the good stuff. The next day, we're going to head down to Gallipoli. We're going to see a few sites on the way down there. Pete's going to do an extensive discussion on the bus, all about the sites. No, he was just telling me that. Do I have to speak on the bus? It's going to be great. We're going to drive down.
I don't like giving a lecture on a bus. I get bus sick.
I don't think you and I do the word lectures particularly well in any format, Pete. I think we have lots of good chats. We have lots of good conversations. It's going to be good fun. So we're going to drive down. We're going to drive down along even the drive down is fantastic as you drive down. It's the what if tour, isn't it? Because you drive down the Sea of Marmara, the Dardanelles, you get to see the whole thing, and you can just imagine in your mind's eye British and French warships steaming up to bombard Constantinople. They didn't quite get there, but you can imagine what would have laid ahead of them as they went down. And then we get to Gallipoli. We're staying in Çanakkale, which is on the Asian side of the Dardanelles. And then it means every day we'll jump on the ferry to cross over to the peninsula. It's a good town. I like Çanakkale. It's a good spot to stay, Pete. I enjoy it. There's places closer to the battlefields, but there's more facilities in Çanakkale. It's a wonderful place, and I just like everything about it. All right. Whoop. You still there? You still there, Pete?
Yeah, I'm still there. You disappeared. You've got a bit blurry. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. Something's gone wrong with his net. Anyway. So I asked you if you like Çanakkale.
Yeah, I love Çanakkale. It's a wonderful, bustling. It's a student town, but that's not a problem. It's just lively. It's full of life. There's bars. There's great places to eat. There's great places to go for that legendary cold beer. There's things to look at. The big guns. There's forts. There's a museum. It's a great place and so beautiful. You can stand on the sort of wharfs and look across the Dardanelles, and there you can see Khaled Bahir, and then background. That was the first time from Çanakkale that I ever saw Gallipoli, and you can see across. You can actually see Anzac in the distance. And you think, I want to be there. I want to go now. I want to go now. You know.
I like the whole routine of getting on the ferry at the end of the day too, and crossing the waters of the Dardanelles, and then a cold beer waiting for you in a little bar on the waterfront. I really love that routine. Just to, again, you get that perspective, because Gallipoli's all about the waters of the Dardanelles. That was why we were there. And every day to sail twice across the waters, I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, great.
So I love Çanakkale as well. And the next day, Anzac sector. So we're gonna do this in a couple of ways. We're gonna go and explore all the key sites and see everything in detail and tell the story while we're there. mostly from the coach. And then the next day we're going to come back and walk the same ground, which I think is a really exciting way to do it, Pete. And we've got 7 full days on the ground on this tour, which is more than we have on any other tour that we do to Gallipoli. So 10 days in total, but 7 full days on the ground, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. So Anzac Sector, I mean, this is obviously the must-do for our Australian and New Zealand listeners. All of the sites, Anzac Cove, Lone Pine, Quinn's Post, the Neck, everywhere, all the sites. We're going to see them, explore them, and tell the whole story. So by the end of this day, you'll have a really good understanding of what went on, and this is the opportunity for us to see places like Silt Spur, if we can still walk it, definitely Pope's Hill, a lot of these great places that we just know so much about. So at the end of the day, you'll have a really good understanding of what went on in the Anzac Sector. I mean, Pete, do you find that it's easy to tell the story of the Anzac Sector as you tour the area?
It's easier to tell it than to fight it, yes. I've always found it very interesting because it's just all there in front of you. It's so tiny. It's such a small area. Yet there's so much history packed into it, so much blood, sweat and tears for both sides. The Anzacs, the Turks, and the British were there too, although people like to forget about that, of course.
Royal Naval Division, don't forget about them. It's really, the interesting thing about Anzac is it's really only a half-day tour. If you want to whip around and you're in your own car and you just want to see the sites and take a photo at each one, you can do it in a matter of hours. There's probably 20 sites to visit, but they're all so close together because it's just such a compact area. It's again, this is the point. You don't understand it till you see it, till you're standing on the ground.
That's it. Then you see it and you marvel at it, how they held it, what they had to endure. It tells the story in itself, and we'll be there. You and I, Matt, to point things out, to show. And we have a wonderful Turkish guide with us, Bülent Yorkmas, who brings that Turkish perspective. Because it's not just one-sided, this battle. There are 2 sets of heroes. Because for me, the Turks are heroes as well. They did so brilliantly holding us back, and then ultimately forcing us off. Whoops! Never mind, can't win them all.
The next day we come back is the one I'm really looking forward to. So Dave said, strap on your walking boots. And I kept it fairly general in the itinerary and said we're going to head back to Anzac and explore the sites on foot. And this is where you and I will work out exactly where we want to go. I think that Bronze Hill walk will be right at the top of our list.
Yeah, I think we'll probably go up Pope's, off the back. Normally we miss out Pope's on the first day, but we'll go up Pope's, walk off the back. There's a track down there. Then go up Bronze Hill, and then that'll be fantastic. And then have a bit of a rest. And then I think Rhododendron Ridge is beckoning me from afar. It's saying, "Come, come," and we'll walk down that, not up it, because I'm 69. And also, if you walk up a hill, all you really see is the backside of the person in front of you, and it's awful. And
none of us want that.
If you walk down a hill, it's not only easier, but you see everything. It's all laid out in front of you. So I'm a big believer in on a walk like Rhododendron Ridge, going down it. It's fantastic.
And so Rhododendron Ridge was where the New Zealanders and the British came up in their attack on Chinook Bear, and then were eventually forced off. And I think it was the New Zealand government that sort of paid, many years ago now, to put in a track that sort of follows in their footsteps. And it's fantastic because it goes all the way from the high ground down to the beach. So when we talk about the August offensive and these great operations to capture the high ground, there's no better way to do that than actually walking in their footsteps down Rhododendron Ridge and past the farm. And, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite walks anywhere. It's so beautiful as well, but there's so much to think of, remembering those lads toiling up it all those years ago.
In the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So the next day, which is day 5, we will do the Helles sector. And, sometimes Australians and Kiwis are a little bit reticent to go and see the sites in Cape Helles, where the Brits and the French fought. Let's not forget our friends from France who fought at Gallipoli. But you cannot tell the story of Gallipoli without seeing Cape Helles. It's just, it's so essential to the story and the landing beaches. And there's so much to see down there that, again, we'll do it from the coach mostly on this day, and we'll go around and see all the key sites so that we can get a full perspective of the whole sector. But, geez, Cape Helles, it's a different story, Pete, to Anzac, but just a special one, isn't it?
And that's where the slaughter was, if you like. That's where the British suffered nearly 40,000 dead. That's where it all happened. Not all of it, but a lot of it. It's they're core battles. This isn't battalions or platoons or companies. This is a corps smashing into each other. Very stiff fighting. And the Australians are there. Are they there? They're called in the Second Battle of Helles and given one of the most appalling tasks, the advance up Krithia Ridge, which I believe you've written a book about. I can't remember what it's called.
I haven't indeed. I think it's called Krithia. I think it's out now.
Oh, yeah.
But that's going to be great. So we're going to see all these sites, not just the British we're going to see the British sites. We're going to see the French cemetery. We're going to see some of the French sites. Let's not forget the Turkish memorials, the fantastic Abadeh, it's called, the Turkish Martyrs Memorial, right on the tip of the peninsula down there. Just extraordinary. Some just really wonderful sites at Helles. And, of course, the landing beaches where the Brits came ashore in some pretty horrific scenes, just awful. And the cemeteries where they now lie. So that's going to be, a moving day. It always is. I love going to Helles.
And you'll be able to tell whether we like the group or not, because if we don't like them, we'll take them to Y Beach.
The Y Beach is very remote and isolated and hard to get to. I've only ever looked down at it. I've never actually been down to it.
I've been down it. I've had a lot of harsh criticism from touring groups, British touring groups. I've struggled down there. I remember one chap attacking me with a walking stick when we got back to the top. He said I'd gone the wrong way. He was only joking. It was great. He enjoyed it too, but he did like a moment.
It's a fantastic place to see Cape Helles, so we're going to enjoy that. And then the following day, we're going to take a bit of a break. Rest day. We'll probably put on a tour to ancient Troy for those that are still interested in the history, or we'll just have a day recovering from our walking in Chinakali, which is a great place to hang out. As you said, the museums and there's some wonderful sights to see. So I think we'll all enjoy a day off from the battlefield walking, rest our weary feet a little bit, enjoy some Turkish culture.
I might even take a group, because I get bored easily. I might even take a bunch off to Kilid Bahir. I remember taking you up Kilid Bahir, but on our battlefield. Do you remember that battlefield day when we went everywhere we didn't get to? So,
yeah,
Kilid Bahir.
It was the what-if tour. Everywhere the Allies did not reach at Gallipoli, we explored. But we climbed
what a day.
a huge plateau known as Kilid Bahir, and that was an adventure. I think we will end up doing. I think we will end up doing a little side trip somewhere.
We nip across. No doubt. We can nip across and just walk up there. Our Turkish guide will refuse to do that. He hates going up there.
So that'll be fun.
Why go
Once
up there?
again, we will.
But the Naval Museum.
Let the itinerary decide on the day.
Yeah. Oh, no, that'll all... But the Naval Museum is a very special museum, and I love it. And you can see the hole in the wall created by one of the 15-inch shells of the Queen Elizabeth. And if you look in the hole, you can see the shell. It's still there. It's fantastic. But it's a great museum, and it's got loads of big green things and big metal things that are various guns and torpedoes. There's even an old submarine. There's not much left of it. It's a great museum. Or you can just chill out there. I recommend the Courtyard Bar, the Hahn Courtyard Bar, where you can have a quiet, reflective drink, unless the guides are in which case you'll have a noisy, reflective drink.
We've got plenty of good recommendations for Gallipoli, don't worry about that. And I say we've got 7 days on the ground. Geez, you could spend 7 weeks in Gallipoli and not see it all, Pete. There's so much to see and do. So we're certainly not going to be bored at any stretch of the time. Brings us to the next day, day 7. I don't want to be, I don't want to oversell it, but this is the day I'm really looking forward to, because we're going to go back to Cape Helles and walk the ground. And I think we're going to struggle to work out what to leave out on this day, Pete, because there's so many great sites.
I think I'd always recommend the Gully Ravine walk, but I'd also recommend the what I would call the Aussies at Anzac walk, where we go back up, follow in their footsteps, probably even from V Beach. But we have to decide on the day. You have to see, because Gully Ravine's quite a long walk. Perhaps we might truncate that. This is what we have to do on the day. See how people are. See how we are. I'm 69. I'll be 70 then. See how we are. We don't want to put people off, because I want to emphasise the point you made earlier. You just have to be reasonably fit. You mustn't be crook. How do you say it? You've got some Australian way. You mustn't be buggered, to use a technical term. If you can walk 5 miles on the flat, you'll probably be all right. Because so 5 miles.
It's going to be.
Yeah. Well, it equates.
So we're definitely going to. The one thing I definitely want to do is that Krithia walk, because I've spent so much time. This is my first time back since I wrote the book. back in 5 years. So I really want to do the walk. That's really what this is, Pete, isn't it? It's us doing the things we want to do and inviting our friends to come with us. And we'll do that walk to Krithia in the footsteps of the Anzac. So if you've read the book, we'll do that walk. We'll start at V Beach next to where the River Clyde was, and we'll follow where the Anzacs camped before they went up, and the hill where they looked out on the battlefield before they joined it, and where they went up and started the advance, then the killing fields that the Australians and New Zealanders crossed in that advance of the 8th of May 1915. And then finally the cemetery where they all lie. It's a hell of a walk. I've only ever done it once, the whole walk, so I can't wait to get back and do it again.
It'll be great. And there's lots to see on the way as well. It's just a fantastic battlefield. The number of trenches, when you get into a place like Observation Wood, there's whole streams of trenches running together. Like a stream, I mean, but it's just so interesting. And we will argue amongst ourselves in a friendly manner and decide which of what we do. But we're definitely doing that walk.
It's going to be great. And then our last full day on the battlefields, we're going to do, the bit that gets a bit overlooked. We're going to do the August offensive, Suvla, the evacuation, tell this whole story of the end of the campaign. So we're going to head north from Anzac and see some sites where the Allies tried to launch their big breakout north of Anzac in August. We're going to head up to Hill 60. And then we're going to head north up to Suvla and see some key sites in Suvla Bay. So it tends to be a little bit weather dependent on where we can go in Suvla and where we can get the coach in and things. But we're going to it's a real bonus extra visitors to go north from Anzac and see all these sites heading up to Suvla Bay. So we might even go down Taylor's Gap if we're feeling particularly kind/cruel, Pete. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, it's with Taylor's Gap. It's quite a walk. But when you're there, it's an amazing sight. It'll be a call we make on the day.
Taylor's Gap, dear listeners, was where the Australians got lost in the night advance in 6th of August, wasn't it, Pete? Night of the 6th of August.
Never take a shortcut.
They took a shortcut through this narrow little gap that their local guide told them it was going to be a shortcut, and it turned out to be a scrub-choked single file little gully which delayed them for hours pretty much cost them any chance of reaching
not sure there was any chance anyway. But what happened to the guide? What happened to the guide?
Yeah, I mean, did they send him off to a holiday camp to thank him for his service?
Shot him.
Ouch. But see, these are the stories we can tell, and once again, you tell them on the ground, and we can say this: they took a wrong turn through Taylor's Gap, and it was a little gully and they got stuck in there, but then you actually have to walk through it. That's a hell of an experience. So we might even throw that one into the bag. We'll definitely go and see those sites. I love getting up there, Pete, to Suvla and Hills. I mean, what a place Hill 60 is.
Hill 60
Scimitar Hill.
For everybody. Everybody fought there. It was, except the French. And that wasn't, they probably would have done if they'd been invited. But it's an amazing place. They call it Bomb Hill, Bomba, because of the number of hand grenades and the mining. Oh wow! And one of the things that I hope will make it special is a place like Hill 60. I'll probably play some tape recordings of men that I interviewed back in the early 80s. And
I was hoping you were going to do that, Pete. Bring your speaker and play the actual voices of these men that Pete interviewed, these old men telling their stories. And
if we haven't got, and we'll also, I think, be making a feature of using the voices in the way we did in podcasts. We'll hand out quotes to read, to involve the people in the tour. So we'll make people that they'll play a part. Oh, they have to, only if they want to, but they'll read some of the quotes. And it's amazing how that brings it home when you read it on the spot where it happened. And you think, wow, that could have been me.
Even more than that, Pete, some of the most sort of emotional moments I've had at Gallipoli have been standing there with you when you get out your speaker, your little Bluetooth speaker, and you hear and you play a recording of someone on the ground you're standing, and you hear this little old man's voice, removed by 50 years from the thing he's describing, just talking about what it was like to be there. And you're standing there hearing his voice, looking out on that view that he remembered from so long ago. It's just extraordinary, mate.
Well, one emotional point for me is I interviewed a man called George Horridge. It's 40 years ago now. And he sang Homeland. Homeland, homeland, when shall I see you again? And it goes on. And it's really emotional. We play that at the last cemetery we visit. And that's a point for the British, for the French, but in some ways even more for our Australian and New Zealand friends, who of course have come so far from their homeland to die at Gallipoli. And we've got to remember the sacrifice those lads made. But it's an emotional and amazing moment, and I will definitely be bringing my little Bluetooth speaker.
And standing in those cemeteries. Standing in those cemeteries, mate, telling those stories. And, you know, we always want tangible examples of the fighting and what went on. There's nothing more tangible than standing next to the blokes that never went home. And so the cemeteries, especially when you get up to places like Suvla, when you start to get to those remote, you know, there's rarely visited cemeteries up in the north. It's really quite emotional. That's going to be our Gallipoli experience. The next day, we're going to jump back on the coach, head back to Istanbul, no doubt still stopping at a few sites on the way, but we'll head back to Istanbul. And then we'll have a big farewell dinner and drinks, and I'm sure there'll be dancing and fez hats worn and traditional music and a great farewell in Istanbul before we say goodbye after breakfast the next morning. But Pete, I'm excited. Like, even just going through this with you now, this is the first time we've discussed the itinerary in detail like this. So I'm glad you joined us, listeners, to do it. So this was half a podcast and half a planning meeting, but I'm really glad you joined us. I think you can hear the excitement in my voice because I absolutely cannot wait to get over there. As I said, this is Pete and I. We're dear mates. We've been friends for a long time, and we love getting out walking the battlefields together. And we're going to do it with 25 of our dear friends that come on the tour with us. So it's going to be such a brilliant experience. Pete, I'm excited. Are you excited?
I am excited. Just what's 8 more months to wait?
8 short months.
8 short months. They all seem short at my age.
It is going to be fantastic. I can't wait. Reading through that day to day just makes me realise how many exciting things we're going to be doing. It's probably the only time we'll ever run this tour. We've got no plans to repeat it. So it is really as a one-off exclusive tour. And if you as a listener would like to join us, there are still places available. So we'll put a link in the show notes. Visit battlefields.com.au to join us wherever you are in the world. We'd love to have some international visitors as well. So my great dream is that one day we'll have a French person on a tour with us, Pete, so we can show them some of the French sites.
Mad.
We will definitely go to, whether we've got French people with us or not, we'll definitely go to the French sites as well because they're well worth seeing. But I can't wait. 21st of May in 2025, we're going to be in Istanbul for this tour to kick off, and I absolutely can't wait. Pete, thank you for joining us. We will see you in Istanbul.
Yeah, I can't wait. That cold beer's beckoning.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review for the podcast, and visit livinghistorytv.com for more great history content.